Why every empire ends with debt. Every empire believes it is different. Rome believed it would rule forever. Britain believed the sun would never set on its empire. Spain thought its mountains of gold guaranteed eternal power. Today, many believe the United States is simply too big to fail. But history tells a very different story. If you look closely, every great empire follows the same path. It rises through innovation, military strength, and economic expansion. It reaches unimaginable wealth. Then something begins to change. Governments spend more than they earn. Wars become more expensive. Public debt explodes. The economy slowly weakens from within. And eventually, the empire collapses. The Roman Empire wasn't destroyed in a single battle. For centuries, Rome financed enormous armies, built massive infrastructure, and maintained a lifestyle that became increasingly expensive. To pay for it all, Roman emperors repeatedly reduced the amount of silver inside their coins. The currency lost value. Prices exploded, trust disappeared, and trade suffered. Inflation quietly weakened the empire long before barbarian invasions finished the job. Centuries later, Spain repeated the same mistake. After discovering enormous amounts of gold and silver in the Americas, Spain became the richest empire on earth. Instead of creating a productive economy, it relied on endless treasure and borrowed heavily to finance wars across Europe. More money entered circulation, inflation surged, industries weakened, and government debt spiraled out of control. By the 17th century, Spain had declared bankruptcy multiple times, despite controlling vast wealth. Then came the British Empire. Britain built the largest empire in human history. It controlled global trade routes, dominated manufacturing, and possessed the world's strongest navy. But maintaining such a massive empire required enormous spending. 2 world wars pushed Britain into unprecedented levels of debt. After 1945, the country struggled to repay what it owed. Economic leadership gradually shifted across the Atlantic, and the United States emerged as the world's new superpower. Different centuries, different governments, exactly the same pattern. Today, the United States sits where Britain once stood. America still possesses the world's largest economy. The US dollar remains the global reserve currency. Investors around the world continue buying American debt because they trust the system. But the numbers are becoming impossible to ignore. The national debt has reached levels once considered unimaginable. Interest payments alone now cost hundreds of billions of dollars every year. Governments continue borrowing to fund new spending while expecting future growth to solve today's problems. History suggests that's a dangerous assumption. Debt itself isn't necessarily the problem. Every successful country borrows money. The danger begins when debt grows faster than the economy that must eventually repay it. At that point, governments face impossible choices. Raise taxes, reduce spending, inflate the currency, or borrow even more. Every empire believed it could postpone those decisions. None escaped the consequences forever. Of course, history never repeats perfectly. The United States is not Rome, and modern economies are far more complex. Technology, global finance, and international markets have changed the rules in many ways. Yet one lesson remains remarkably consistent. No empire has ever been powerful enough to ignore economic reality forever. Military strength cannot replace a healthy economy. Political influence cannot erase debt. Printing more money cannot create real wealth. Every great civilization eventually discovers that financial discipline matters just as much as military power. The question is no longer whether debt has destroyed great empires before. History has already answered that. The real question is whether today's world is watching the beginning of that same cycle once again, and if history is any guide, we may not recognize the end until it's already here.